Now, Prince Harry has put himself back in the headlines after he made an unexpected appearance at London's High Court. We'll bring you more on that shortly. Meanwhile, King Charles's coronation is drawing closer and speculation is running high as details for the day are locked in. But while everyone is asking what role Harry and Meghan will play on the day, the Prince has unluckily found himself in hot water again over his memoir. Not only is he facing calls to be deported for drug use, he's also sparking some gruesome protests over his Afghan kill count. Joining me now to discuss all that and more is our royal commentator and host of the To Die For Daily podcast, Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, thank you so much for your time. There are calls. We'll start with this deportation stuff because this just seems silly to me. People want to deport him from the US because on his visa application, they suspect he wasn't entirely honest because, of course, in his memoir, he spoke openly about his drug use, but you're supposed to declare that when you want to live in America, and he presumably didn't. The Heritage Foundation is behind these calls. What do you make of this entire story?
I mean, Rita, this is a little crazy and exciting if you think about it. The idea that Prince Harry could have lied on his visa application, and if so, there are calls for him to be deported. He openly discusses drug use in his book, and don't forget that pay-to-play interview he recently did. He talks about continuing that drug use, some of that drug use being illegal. And so the Heritage Foundation is saying, as taxpayers, we deserve to know how he became, a citizen of this country. Is it through his wife? Does he have the special privilege visa? And if he received special privileges, is that illegal? And does America want to continue to house somebody that's basically endorsing drug use? I mean, let's be honest, the odds of him getting deported over this, I think, are really small. But I do think it might be teaching him a lesson. He puts his foot in his mouth constantly. And at what point is he going to learn that maybe he needs to be a little more responsible with his words?
Well, he's pretty much gone through life without having to face too many consequences for his shenanigans. So I'm not surprised. I don't think he's a citizen yet of the US, but perhaps down the track that will be a road he will take. Now, another revelation in Harry's memoir was his claim to have killed 25 Afghan fighters. Now, a Russian artist who was offended by the claim is planning to project a sculpture featuring blood donated by Afghans onto St. Paul's Cathedral, along with footage of the Prince. Now, when the memoir first came out, a lot of people were in disbelief that Harry had included this particular detail in the book. But I've got to say, Kinsey, perhaps a gruesome art installation is much better than the threats of violence that followed the body count claims when the book first came out.
I agree with you. I do imagine, however, that this is really embarrassing for King Charles. He'd like for the focus to be, specifically in that part of the world, he'd like for the focus to be his coronation, which is coming up in the next month. But you're right. Harry actually is in town at the moment, and he's constantly talking about his privacy and security concerns. Again, we're talking consequences here. I think that this is one of those instances where he might sit back and go, maybe this is a piece of information I shouldn't have shared.
Well, you would hope so, because so many of the people who were highly critical when that detail first became known were serving an ex-serviceman. So he's upset his own there, and you would hope that he's actually reflected on that. Now, talking about royals embarrassing King Charles, Prince Andrew wants to write a tell-all autobiography. This sounds like the worst idea ever. The Sun's reporting 8 in 10 people think it is a terrible idea. Is this going to happen? Surely, I don't know what yes people he has around him who are telling him this is a good idea, but this can only end in tears.
Well, first of all, Rita, I wanted to ask you, would you read this book? I don't know if I would. I would be curious to know if this is something you would actually pick up and read.
No, thank you. No, 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 no. I wouldn't even listen to the audio book because I did enjoy parts of Harry's audio book because they were just so ridiculous. It was unintentional comedy, but I don't think Prince Andrew is going to bring me any laughs.
But here, Rita, I wonder if perhaps this is a manipulative tactic, perhaps because I've heard that Andrew and Fergie are leaking stories. That is what I've heard, in the royal space. So could Andrew have leaked this story to manipulate King Charles because he could potentially be kicked out of the home? He'd rather stay in Royal Lodge, or, they're in need of money. So is this Andrew's way of leaking this story, making King Charles a little nervous so that he can, he has the upper hand?
I like how you think, Kinsey. I think that is a real possibility because you can just imagine the alarm bells ringing when they hear about Prince Andrew tell-all autobiography. They will probably want to move heaven and earth to stop that happening. So, yeah, perhaps he has zero intention of actually doing one, just a clever tactic. Now, the Sussexes apparently want a special family moment during the King's coronation. They haven't given any detail about what that might be. There's been a lot of speculation that they want to be on the balcony with the working royals. They certainly love attention. What do you think they're after here?
Well, I've heard two things. I've heard that they would like an acknowledgement of Archie's birthday. And in that, I'd say I haven't seen the kid in years. So I would be, proof of life like that. So, but I agree that it could be potentially the balcony moment that they're looking for. Rita, Thomas Markle lives in the same time zone that they do. There's a Burger King between here and Mexico that they could meet at if they want a special family moment. It amazes me that they cling onto the royal family while continuing to alienate Meghan's. And we know exactly why, because their brand are the glossy tiaras. Their brand is the pomp and ceremony. They need it, and they are losing it day by day living in Montecito, California.
That is such an excellent point. It's one I haven't thought of because, yeah, we do hear this constant commentary about Harry's family and how they want to heal those wounds and all the trouble that's happened there. But what about Meghan's family? What about healing some of those wounds and getting that family together, getting Meghan back with her sister on friendly terms? There seems to be no focus on that at all from Harry and Meghan, never mind everybody else. And it speaks volumes. Now, I mentioned at the top that Prince Harry made a surprise appearance at London's High Court overnight. He's there for a pre-trial hearing in his claim against the Daily Mail. Entertainment reporter Peter Ford had this hot take. He said, "Great he's made this effort. Sad he couldn't find time for his dying grandmother. Priorities, I guess." We love Peter Ford. But Kinsey, tell me about this particular court case. It's not just about Harry. A number of other celebrities are involved, including actresses Liz Hurley and Sadie Frost.
That's right. So this is about invasion of privacy. They claim that Associated Newspapers, they claim that they were pretending, private investigators were pretending to be doctors to access medical records. They were hacking bank records, and they hid microphones within their cars and homes so they could secretly listen to them. But what's so interesting about this story, Rita, is that King Charles had his very first state visit that was canceled recently. He was meeting with President Macron at Versailles. As you know, France is like up in flames right now. They are rioting. They're protesting the president. So that trip was canceled because it just was not a good look. So all the royal watchers and commentators are thinking, wow, King Charles finally has a day off, a few days off for the first time in probably decades. You know, their diaries are packed 6 months in advance. Harry tries to see Charles while he's there. The Telegraph reports that King Charles says he's too busy. Rita, we know he has these days off. Can you imagine Harry getting the message he's too busy when we know that he's kicking his feet up right now, Rita?
Oh my God. Well, I wonder who leaked that. I wonder if it was Harry leaking that or Harry's people or whether the palace or someone involved would have leaked that.
I think that Harry has a relationship with the Telegraph because they got a copy of Spare before anybody else. So I do think there is a relationship there. And someone that works for Archewell is friends online with the journalist that had that copy of Spare. So there are some, if you connect the dots, they're there.
They're absolutely there, but that is quite a snub, you've got to say, when the whole world knows you've got the day off because all your plans have fallen through with Macron and you're still too busy to see the prodigal son. Interesting indeed. Kinsey Schofield, thank you so much for joining me today.